So I'm responding to the topic of minimum wage. The claim that was made was that increasing the minimum wage would benefit our society as a whole. Today I'm going to present my claim, which is that increasing minimum wage will have a limited effect on society as a whole. The first argument that was presented was that raising minimum wage would help people stay out of poverty. Although there is a relationship there between increasing minimum wage and reducing poverty levels, it's not as large as expected. According to Sarah Shemkus, who's an economist and a journalist, she wrote a paper that identified that there is little to no relationship between a higher minimum wage and a poverty reduction. That was reiterated by David Newmark, who is a professor of economics and director of Center for Economics and Public Policy at UC Irvine. And in his article for New York Times, he mentioned how minimum wages do a bad job of directing, benefits to low-income families. Although there is a relationship there, like I said, it is not up to scale to bring a majority of the people needed out of the poverty level. He conducted a study in 2013 that if we increased minimum wage by 2.8%, only 21.3% of people affected in poor families would only be 21.3%, while 30.9% of people would be affected with incomes 3 times over the poverty line. So a lot more people in families outside of the poverty line would be affected rather than ones in the poverty. Also, by increasing minimum wage, that would have difficulty for employers. With increasing higher wages, it would be harder for them to hire enough people, as well as keeping the hours to these people. They may have to cut jobs in order to pay higher wages, and that would hurt people that need those jobs and need those hours, thus keeping them in that poverty level. Also, small businesses would start to suffer. They highly rely on minimum wages and things like that. So them trying to keep up with paying higher would hurt their business as well, with cutting jobs and hours. Increasing the minimum wage would also have little help in supporting a family. Some jobs just do not offer enough hours, like I said. Increasing in minimum wages would maybe have to cut in hours, and that would start to make unemployment rise and give these people that need the hours not enough time to actually work full-time and have enough money to support their family. Unemployment is already at 8%, according to David Newmark, and so this would just not help them at all. Also, the wage increase would be gradual, so it wouldn't be effective for some time. So people that are in the poverty level that need support for their family wouldn't get it right away, and they may need that, so it wouldn't come until later. And that's kind of reiterated by that Newmark study, that only 21.3% of people in poor families are actually getting the benefits. Also, prices may rise. If employers have to increase their wages, can't be able to support their businesses with enough people and enough hours, they may have to raise the prices in order to help pay their employees. And in a study done by Journalist Study and found by Purdue, claims higher wages would raise prices by an estimated 4.3%. So contrary to the claim that I'm responding to, increasing the minimum wage will have a limited effect on society because of the minimal positive relationship between minimum wage and poverty levels, the difficulties that would rise for employers, and the eventual but slow support for low-income families.
Right, well, you labeled the main issue pretty clearly, and then you have your own counterclaim that you're talking about that's going to be a limited effect, which is fine. But after that, there's not really much structure. It just seems to drift from topic to topic. I do see distinct topics as you're going along, but there's not really much signposting of where we are at any given point, and so it does have a tendency sometimes to run together, especially after you get past your first point, because your first point is where most of your evidence is, and then after that there's a whole variety of assertions that don't have any evidence on them, and then there's one final argument that does have some evidence that applies to it. The argument about how the minimum wage is going to be have a little impact on poverty. I think when you start presenting those statistics, you need to kind of explain what those statistics mean. I got 21.3% and 30.9%, and I'm going, okay, I think I understand what you're saying, but it's not very clear. At the end, in your summary, I thought you did a little bit better job explaining what that meant, but at the time, it's a little bit confusing, so I think you want to be careful about that. Then there's an argument about how it might have an effect on employment. That's probably a point that should be signposted. By the way, I don't know if that directly addresses an issue that the advocate presented at all, or if this is entirely a rebuttal issue. If it's a rebuttal issue, it definitely needs its own substructure. If it is a response to the advocate's point, there's not really any evidence, or excuse me, indication of what evidence the advocate presented that you're responding to. And then we got a whole series of, like I said, assertions on your part about hiring, about job cutbacks, about how small businesses are reliant on these kinds of things, and I didn't hear any data or any experts suggesting that that's the case. There is a little statistic there that says unemployment's at 8%. That sounds like it's from a couple of years ago, maybe a little bit high currently. But the other evidence that was useful to you came right at the end when you talked about the price increases, and you did have one statistic there that suggested there was going to be a 4.3% increase in prices. So think about it this way. Let's do a comparison in the argument. What would the increase in minimum wages represent as a percentage of people's incomes, and compare that to the cost of living increase that's going to result from that? Is there a net benefit, and who is that benefit going to occur to? And I think that's where your argument about only 21% of the people in the poverty level are going to be affected by this in any way, and it's going to be offset substantially because of the increased prices. So I think I can see where all your arguments are going, but you need to apply them a little bit better. I didn't hear any reference to what the advocates' arguments were, what evidence they used, what reasons there were. So this is all kind of counterclaims on this issue, and they're good counterclaims. And I thought, like I said, that you explained them well. I think you need better evidence on a couple of points, but I don't know if the advocates' argument has been damaged by these points, or if these are merely rebuttal issues that they could come back and address and simply argue, for instance, that their original points were left untouched by your claims. All right, thank you.